everyone, this is Holly Knutson. I'm a holistic cancer coach from Utah, and today I want to talk about how dangerous is 5G. How will 5G, the newest global wireless technology, impact human health? Well, it's a good question and one we should all be highly invested in because any technological advances that have the potential to damage our health also have the ability to significantly reduce the quality of our lives. Just how dangerous is 5G, and how concerned should we be about the continuing rollouts? What is 5G? Radiofrequency electromagnetic fields, abbreviated EMFs or radiation, EMRs, are a class of invisible radio waves that are transmitted across a broad range of devices, including smartphones, computers, wireless internet networks, power lines, baby monitors, alarm systems, microwaves, dimmer switches, remote controls, smart meters, and electrical wiring. You can even be exposed to your neighbor's frequencies since these fields can travel. This most recent wireless cellular technology combines microwave radiation along with high-frequency millimeter wavelengths. A fifth-generation mobile broadband, which is what 5G is, has followed in succession after 1G, 2G, 3G, and 4G. 5G was designed to deliver both higher performance and improved efficiency in terms of coverage and speed. This means the ability to connect lag-free, faster downloads up to 10 gigabytes per second, faster browsing and streaming, and reductions in the time it takes for devices to communicate with each other. 5G will eventually replace 4G or at the very least amplify it. Although 5G technology was developed for driverless cars to run on, it is predicted to be rolled out everywhere. South Korea was the first country to adopt 5G on a large scale, with implementation commencing in April of 2019. Sadly, an onslaught of chronic illness will follow in the wake of continuing 5G rollouts. Well, what are the differences between 4G and 5G? And we're now using both 3 and 4G. The purpose of 5G is to connect everyone and everything virtually, including machines and devices. One of the reasons the technology is so harmful is that it requires cell antennas to be placed every 100 to 200 meters, including in both residential and commercial areas. The expansion of 5G will also require more repeating stations in order to further push the radio waves to provide long-range support. 5G uses different types of antennas and radio spectrum frequencies with the goal of connecting more devices to the internet and supporting faster data. It also uses extremely high radio frequencies in the 300 gigahertz to 300 gigahertz range, whereas 4G networks use frequencies below 6 gigahertz. And this is a drastic uptick in frequency generation and up to a 10-fold increase in data transmission. These advances will effectively expose the population to higher amounts of millimeter wave radiation, along with radio waves that have higher frequencies. Both 3G and 4G networks use radiation in much larger wavelengths and lower frequencies, which makes them far less damaging. And it's not only the strength of the signal or the amplitude of the distance, but the frequency that determines the biological effects of the radiation that we're exposed to. Furthermore, because 5G transmits shorter wavelengths along with super high frequency millimeter wavelengths, signal transmission is limited. And because these wavelengths can't penetrate physical structures like walls, more high-frequency powered base stations that are closer in proximity to each other will be required. 4G, on the other hand, transmits larger wavelengths, which are able to transmit signals for miles without interruption. This type of transmission requires far fewer base stations. Since 2018, many healthy trees have been cut down in cities worldwide due to the inability of electromagnetic frequencies to pass through leaves. Electromagnetic fields are not only damaging to humans, but also negatively impact plants, animals, and even bacteria. Because of this poor transmission, every 10 to 12 houses in urban areas will require an antenna. 5G antennas are substantially smaller, so they can be easily disguised to the public eye. 5G networks will operate using several bands that differ in frequency, with lower frequencies being used in the first phase of rollouts. Higher radio frequencies are proposed for later stages of 5G implementation. The technology is now being broadcast in densely populated areas, more so than in rural areas, but the rollouts are scheduled to continue through 2020. Sprint, Verizon, and AT&T have all begun deployment of 5G, but availability won't be widespread for several more months. What is the connection between 5G and chronic disease? Electromagnetic radiation is a known driver of cancer, neurological diseases, autoimmunity, and chronic illness in general. In fact, there is a direct correlation between Wi-Fi and chronic disease. 5G is like 4G on steroids. The risk will be far more exaggerated due to both the increase in exposure along with the accelerated speed of the wavelengths, which is what enables the transfer of more information. Even the World Health Organization has acknowledged that EMRs are potentially carcinogenic. The human body uses wavelengths in the ranges of 2 billion to 20 billion hertz within its biophysical communication systems. Lower frequencies are disruptive to these internal systems, so it's a given that 5G will be even more harmful, leading to more chronic disease, more sleep disturbances, more anxiety disorders, and rising incidences of brain abnormalities, immune dysfunction, autism, and premature aging. 5G does increase cancer risk due to the degradation of immune function, cellular stress, and changes in gene expression. 5G is associated with rising incidences of melanoma of the skin and ocular melanoma of the eyes, along with an increase in various cancers of the head and neck as a result of alterations in blood coagulation in the brain. There is a direct correlation between glioblastoma, which is an aggressive type of brain and spinal cord cancer, and heavy cell phone use. This is why using the speaker mode on your smartphone is so critical. The more time you are exposed to EMRs on a daily basis, the higher your potential cancer risk. Melanoma and cancers of the brain and thyroid can be delayed for up to 20 years. This means that the actions you take today will determine your health status in the coming years. Of the approximately 65,000 metabolic enzymes in the body, 1/7 of these enzymes have been shown to be either destroyed or permanently altered by exposure to Wi-Fi. Electromagnetic radiation has a devastating effect on the microbiome as well, which is an integral component of the immune system. 80% of the immune system resides in the gut. providing an absolutely vital defense against incoming invaders. Not only do these beneficial gut microbes live in the intestines, they're also plentiful in the sinuses and lungs to protect against pathogens that we breathe in. The microbiome is also a critical component of the metabolic systems of the body. Microbes aid in digestion, absorption, and detoxification, and they create B vitamins that are indispensable for good health. These life-giving microbes are extremely sensitive to electromagnetic frequencies, which can cause mutations, alterations, and even total destruction. Many people's microbiota is already severely compromised by glyphosate and other chemicals, with electromagnetic radiation further adding insult to injury. Brain-related disorders are now the primary cause of death in women, surpassing cancer and cardiovascular disease. 80% of these deaths can be attributed to Alzheimer's disease. Electromagnetic frequencies disrupt the blood-brain barrier, producing vascular leaks that allow toxic agents, including heavy metals, to enter the brain. Normal functioning of the barrier only allows selective entry of water, amino acids, and glucose. Vascular leaking disturbs normal brain function and is implicated in the rise of Alzheimer's disease. Anxiety disorders are at an all-time high and are linearly associated with exposure to Wi-Fi. EMRs suppress GABA receptors in the brain, the calming neurotransmitter that promotes feelings of well-being and restful sleep. Add to this the fact that the brain detoxifies at night via a system called the Glymphatics. But this process only happens when deep levels of sleep are reached. EMRs prevent lower brain rhythms from being reached, which only accentuates anxiety. Electromagnetic fields are associated with insomnia, which isn't simply a matter of not sleeping, but rather an issue of brain inflammation. Microwaves are the biggest culprit underlying insomnia because they activate inflammatory pathways in the brain. Wi-Fi fields also cause mold to become more virulent, stimulating them to produce more mycotoxins and spores. And this is why there is a direct correlation between electromagnetic fields and mold illness. Lack of restorative sleep and the resulting lack of detoxification allows for the bioaccumulation of metals to gradually concentrate in the brain as the cycle continues and intensifies. Many people at this point resort to taking sleeping pills because they're so desperate to get restful sleep. Wouldn't decreasing exposure to dirty electricity and detoxing the brain of metals be a more effective solution to alleviating anxiety and insomnia than would be taking medications that are rife with side effects? Unfortunately, many healthcare providers, along with their patients, do not give credence to the relationship between EMRs and their chronic symptoms. Well, this next subject is a big one: autism and electromagnetic frequencies. Autism has reached epidemic levels. 1 in 26 kids has the disorder, with numbers expected to double every 4 years. EMRs impede normal brain development in children. Dr. Dietrich Klinghardt conducted a study measuring the amounts of electromagnetic frequencies pregnant women received. Those who gave birth to children that were later diagnosed with autism received up to 20 times more exposure than women with non-autistic children. Dr. Klinghardt has stated that exposure to Wi-Fi is the sole predictive factor of whether someone will become autistic, and that's pretty sobering. Heavy metals act as an antenna for electromagnetic frequencies. One study showed that exposure to Wi-Fi liberated the mercury in silver amalgam fillings in the mouth, causing these fillings to dissolve at a much faster rate. This liberation caused a mercury vapor to be created, which was then found to migrate to the central nervous system and brain, with only 20% of the metal being excreted. This means that 80% of the vapor permanently remained entrapped within the system. I wrote a long post on this. I'll put the link below this video. This video would be too long if I included all of the information, but I also talk about 5G in relationship to myelin sheath related disorders like MS. I talk more about sleep and electromagnetic frequencies and oxidative stress. Also, retroviruses and how radiation affects their activation. But now I want to talk about the cumulative effect of radiation exposure. It's the constant chronic exposure to electromagnetic frequencies that degrades health and immune function over time. Smartphones, computers, cordless phones, which are particularly bad, Wi-Fi routers, and smart meters, cell phone towers, radio towers, TV towers, and household currents all play into exposure and are broadcast 24/7 into our homes and work environments. We're literally swimming in electromagnetic radiation. Since it's the cumulative effect of radiation exposure that is so damaging, it's important to implement strategies that minimize exposure on a daily basis. There's a lot you can do to safeguard your health, and every strategy that you employ will pay dividends. These include: turn your Wi-Fi router off at night. You can set your router on a timer so it turns off at like 10 p.m. and goes on at 8 a.m. And whenever you're in your house, though, and you're not using it, just turn it off to reduce exposure. If you must use a cordless phone, at least don't have one in your bedroom. It would be much better to just get rid of it, though. Turn your phone off at night, your smartphone, or put it on airplane mode, which halts the emission of electromagnetic frequencies. And keep your phone at the furthest possible distance from your body. The amplitude of the radiation field is exponentially reduced for each inch the phone is from your body. Use the speaker function to talk rather than holding your phone to your head. Avoid using your smartphone where reception is not optimal, such as in basements, underground garages, and elevators. Radiation exposure increases several hundredfold for each missing signal bar. Swap out your LED light bulbs and use incandescent lighting instead. Eat organic so as not to ingest GMOs. Use Stetzer filters in your bedroom. Use a wired headset rather than a Bluetooth device. Use a dosimeter to measure your daily cumulative exposure to EMRs. This will help you determine ways to reduce exposure. Detox heavy metals by using an ionic foot bath. Use a PEMF, which stands for Pulsating Electromagnetic Field Therapy device, to activate cellular energy and stimulate repair. And you can also take tinctures of rosemary and bee propolis to reduce oxidative stress that is a result of being exposed to electromagnetic frequencies. And then, as always, implement healthy lifestyle strategies to keep your immune system functioning at full throttle. And I'll put links below this video if you want to access any of these things that I mentioned. In summary, studies on the adverse effects of electromagnetic frequencies on human health is not a new field, but instead an area of science that is well established with over 50 years of documentation. However, these studies have only recently garnered the attention of the public, and rightly so, since 5G has been shown to pose serious health threats. And this is before additional rollouts have even begun. More than 230 scientists from over 40 countries have expressed concern related to substantial increases in EMR exposure. Our current technology, which uses 3G and 4G, is exposing us to EMRs thousands of times above what is recommended by the Building Biology Evaluation Guidelines. Fifth generation technology, such as 5G, will result in exposures millions of times above what is considered safe. 5G will deliver a 10-fold increase in terms of data transmission when compared to 4G. But this begs the question, are faster downloads worth the health risks? The telecommunications industry is 6 times bigger, financially speaking, than is the pharmaceutical industry. We've all witnessed the negative repercussions that Big Pharma has had on the health of our society, so don't hold your breath waiting for propositions against EMRs to be approved. It's likely not going to happen. Consequently, it's up to each of us individually to find ways to protect our health. This is not about perfection, but doing what you can to reduce risk. Were you aware of the health implications of 5G? Let me know in the comments underneath this video. Thanks so much for watching.